Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome to my early Premier League predictions. I know it's June and we've still got 7 or 8 weeks till the season starts, but I thought it'd be a bit of fun to do some early predictions based on what they did last season and what their teams look like before we finish the summer transfer window. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into this. So then, let me run you through how this video is going to work today. As you can see, we have split this into 5 categories. We've got the top 4, 5th to 9th, mid-table, surviving, and my bottom 3. I'll be putting each of the 20 Premier League teams that are scattered across the bottom here into each of these categories. Let's get started with Brentford Football Club. Now, Brentford, I was really pleased they stay up. They did amazing last season. Obviously, I like the manager. It was such a good story with Ericsson coming in, and they did really, really well. They survived quite comfortably. They actually finished 13th last year, and people talk about second season syndrome. Could it be the second year that they go down? I don't think they will. I like Brentford. I like what they're doing. They've been building over years. It's not like they just came up through the Championship randomly. They were building and getting closer and closer to promotion each season. And I think they built their team up to be Premier League ready. They were definitely Premier League ready last season. And I think they'll be Premier League ready this season. I think they'll survive again. Next up, Aston Villa. Now, this is going to be an interesting one because it's Steven Gerrard for the full season, unless he was to depart for any reason, of course. He only came in about halfway through last season. Obviously, they had Dean Smith up until then. I thought they were quite good. There was times where it wasn't perfect, but they did pull out some decent results. And I think what's going to be interesting as well is, remember, this is a very early prediction. We need to wait and see which players they sign. I think they could push towards the top half. I'm going to put them in mid-table. I think they could finish around 10th, maybe even break into that top 8 or 9. Next up, we have Fulham Football Club. Now, this is a tricky one. Fulham, a bit like Norwich, they go up, they come down, they go up, they come down. They're on that yo-yo merry-go-round, and I think it'd be really nice for Fulham to stay up. I always think Fulham or Norwich, wouldn't it be great to actually see them stay up? But I just don't know if they will. I look at them, I think Silva's been decent. They've obviously been amazing in the Championship. No doubt the best team. They break records when they're in the Championship. But there's always that problem of switching it into the Premier League. Can Mitrovic prove himself? Can the other players like Wilson? They've had lots of quality in the Championship. But the Premier League is so competitive now that I am actually going to put Fulham in my bottom 3. I'd like them to prove me wrong. You let me know what you think of Fulham. Next up, Manchester City. This is easy because I've got a top 4 category. They're, of course, going in there. Probably my favourites for the title again. It's always going to be them or Liverpool. There's no doubts for them and Liverpool. They're always going to be in the top 4. Man City are devastatingly good. And like I say, imagine with Haaland, they could just be unbelievable. They're always going to be too strong. Guardiola's probably going to be there for another season or 2. Yeah, Man City, top 4, undoubtedly, probably going to win the league as well. Now, next up's Everton. This is quite tricky. I always put Everton in and around mid-table, but last season they really were bad up until the last few games. Now, obviously, they've got Frank Lampard from the start of this season up until potentially the end of the season. Like I say, it depends how they go. I don't think Everton are going to improve much. I don't think they'll go down. But I just look at their players and think they weren't very good. Obviously, they pulled things out towards the end of the season, but that was only when they knew they were in dire straits. It wouldn't surprise me if Everton have another bottom half season. So I'm going to put them in that category. You let me know what you think of Everton down below, because I just don't see how they're going to improve that much. Next up are Liverpool. Like I say, with Man City, it's easy. They're my top 2 up there in the top 4. Liverpool are just brilliant, aren't they? Even if they lose some players like Mane, which it looks like they might, they're always going to be so strong. Their recruitment is good. That's why I think Liverpool will continue to be a top team for at least the next 5-10 years. Klopp is building something truly special. Next up, Brighton and Hove Albion. Tricky one. I like what they do. They did have a little spell towards the end of the season where they were struggling for wins and struggling for goals, and then they started to get better again. They kind of came and went through the season, but the majority of the time, Brighton are a decent team. Graham Potter plays some good football, so it wouldn't surprise me if Brighton were to have another decent season, mid-table. And like I say, with the Premier League being so competitive, finishing mid-table is actually a real achievement. Well done, Brighton. You're always a solid outfit. Next up, Leeds United. Wow, this is tricky. After last season, I don't know what to judge them as because they were not great, were they? They got over the line. Obviously, Bielsa's gone, so it'll be interesting to see Jesse March bringing in his own kind of players and seeing what they can do. I think it really is important if they get off to a good start or not. If they get off to a slow start, the Premier League is not forgiving. I could see them getting left behind because they didn't have a great season last year and they were really in the thick of it. Obviously, fair play to them for beating Brentford when the pressure was on the final game of last season, but I'm sorry, Leeds fans. As much as I like Leeds, I think it's great to see Leeds in the Premier League. I think this could be a year where Leeds go down. I just don't know what their identity is yet, but we'll wait and see until my official predictions what kind of summer business they do. Next up, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Big fan of Wolves. They play some good stuff. They're always a solid outfit. I think they finished 10th last year, so that's a very decent season. Can they break into that top 9? I think they could. It's going to be very competitive. You've always got the top 4 teams, then your Manchester Uniteds, your Arsenals, your West Hams. You're going to have Newcastle in there as well, and Leicester City. I think Wolves are going to be in that mid-table section again. I quite like the manager. I'm going to say mid-table. Let me know what you think, Wolves fans. Next up, Chelsea. They're going in my top 4. I think what's interesting with Chelsea is not everything is perfect off the pitch. Obviously, there's been a couple of issues, but the manager just got on with it. They wrapped up 3rd place. Obviously, it'd be great if they can win some trophies this season coming. I think they'll probably be similar to last season in that sort of 3rd place. So I'm going to put Chelsea in 3rd in that top 4. Next up, Crystal Palace. Now I have to put my hands up and say I was completely wrong with Crystal Palace last season because I thought they'd really struggle with Vieira coming in because I quite liked Roy Hodgson. But do you know what? They were even better under Vieira, and obviously some of the players they've got, they're just very, very decent. I think Crystal Palace are one of those clubs that I think a lot of Championship clubs aspire to be like because they're never really in danger of going down. They've got good players. Their fans make an electric atmosphere at Selhurst Park, and they always give the big teams a run for their money. So I'm going to say Crystal Palace will be in the mid-table section yet again. Next up, Leicester City. Now, Leicester, for me, by the standards they've set themselves, didn't have a great season last year. Obviously, they did well in the Europa Conference League, but they only finished in 8th place, and I think I predicted them to finish about 5th or 6th in that season. I think they'll be in the sort of top 9 again, probably pushing towards 6th or 7th. I think they'll have a battle for Europe this season. I'm going to put Leicester City in that category. I'm also going to put Newcastle United in there. Newcastle obviously going to be a little bit different next season. They were incredible since the turn of the year, and obviously they've got the potential to bring in a couple more players. Obviously the likes of Trippier will be coming back from injury, and obviously Eddie Howe's a decent manager. I think Newcastle, depends how much the owners invest, but they are in the stage that Man City were in, not quite when they were winning titles, but when they were starting to build towards that in sort of 2008 and 9, because Newcastle, with the backing they could have, could be a top 4 team in the next 2, 3, 4 years. I think for now, though, they'll push towards top 9, top 8 kind of stuff, and I think Newcastle United are definitely a club for the future. And do you know what? They're a great fan base as well. I think the fans deserve to see them do well. Manchester United. Now, I've got one space left in my top 4. Who am I going to give it to? Not Manchester United. Obviously, Manchester United do have potential. Obviously, the size of club they are, the amount of money they could spend. But there's just something at Manchester United where I think it's going to be a long, long time until they're back to their best. Obviously, finishing 4th would be great for them. But I remember Manchester United winning titles, and finishing 4th doesn't sound like much of an achievement when you consider the size of club they are. I think they'll probably finish around 5th and 6th. I think Ten Hag is a decent manager. They'll obviously offload a few players, bring a few players in. But ultimately, they need a few transfer windows for me, so I'm going to put them in the top half, maybe around 6th or 7th this season. Next up, Southampton. Now, I've still got one team to relegate. Will it be Southampton? No, I think Southampton are a decent club. Although last season finishing 15th, it's not the worst season in the world, but at times I was like, they're only just ahead of the relegation battle. But I suppose for Southampton, just continually staying in the Premier League, I think they've been there for about 10 years now. That is incredible considering how many teams come and go. I think Southampton I'll put in that sort of bottom half category. I quite like the Saints. And obviously having the likes of James Ward-Prowse, who I think is easily a top 6 or 7 team player, that's just going to boost you up a couple of places. Next up, Nottingham Forest. I am so excited to see Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Honestly, they were relegated from the Premier League the year I was born, 1999, so I don't remember them being a top flight team, but the weight they carry, that club is massive, and I think they're going to do well. Do you know what it is for me? When teams go up and down, they struggle when they go back up. But when a team comes up like Brentford or Leeds or Nottingham Forest that are a bit of a new thing, teams struggle to figure them out. And I think Forest are going to pull up trees this season, if you pardon the pun. I think they might actually finish mid-table. You look at the quality they've got, Steve Cooper and that club just click together. And do you know what? They could even bring in more players. I think Forest will surprise a few people next season. Next up, Tottenham Hotspur. Now, Tottenham are in the Champions League. They did amazing to secure 4th place. It was quite competitive between them, Arsenal, and maybe Manchester United last season. I think Tottenham will secure it again. I think having a manager like Conte is so good for Tottenham Hotspur. Since Pochettino's gone, I've not really been convinced by any of the Spurs managers up until now. I think Conte will do good things for Spurs, and I think they're my favourites for 4th place. Next up, AFC Bournemouth. Now, AFC Bournemouth obviously came down to the Championship. It took them 2 years to get back up. So they're not quite a yo-yo team like Norwich and Fulham. I think Bournemouth have a decent chance of surviving. But like I say, the Premier League just seems to get more and more competitive each season. And I don't know. Bournemouth have certainly got the quality. I don't think they'll be bottom, but I do think they'll be in that battle and maybe just go down in 18th place or something like that. I'm sorry, Bournemouth fans. I do like Bournemouth, but I'm just going to slide them in my bottom 3. You let me know if you disagree. Arsenal are next. They're going to go in the category just below the top 4. I think what's annoying for Arsenal is they had a season last year where they weren't playing in Europe, and that for me was the best chance for them to break into that top 4 because they could put all their eggs in the Premier League basket and just go for it, and they still didn't do it. I could see signs of improvement under Arteta, but not to a point where I think they're going to make the top 4. I think they might do a few things in the Europa League, but I think their focus is going to be sort of split between the two things, and I think they could finish around 5th or 6th. The last team, West Ham United, they're also going to join the teams battling for Europe in 5th to 9th. I like West Ham. They did amazing in the Europa League. And you know what? I'm excited to see what they can do next year. I obviously really like the manager, David Moyes. They've got the likes of Declan Rice and Antonio, and they've just got a good togetherness. If they can keep that squad together for a couple more years, West Ham will continue to get better and better. That wraps up my predictions, guys. That's my early Premier League season. Do take that with a pinch of salt, obviously, because things might change through the summer. Let me know your predictions down below. Make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.